Imagine a world where only 1,000 humans survived. Sounds like a bad sci-fi movie, right? Well, it actually happened. Around 900,000 years ago, our ancestors faced a near-extinction event that almost wiped us off the planet. On this episode of ExtinctZoo, we're diving deep into this prehistoric crisis to understand how close humanity came to disappearing forever. It's a wild story, man. And the craziest part is that by understanding what happened back then, we can gain some incredible insights into human resilience and adaptation. So picture this, a supervolcano way bigger than anything we've ever seen erupts in what is now Indonesia. I'm talking about Lake Toba, man. And this wasn't just any eruption. This was a full-on planet-altering event. We're talking thousands of cubic kilometers of ash and rock blasted into the atmosphere, blocking out the sun and sending the Earth into a volcanic winter that lasted for years. The climate went haywire, temperatures plummeted, plants died off, and the food chain basically collapsed. It was a brutal time to be alive, especially if you were one of our early human ancestors trying to survive this apocalypse. The Toba eruption was a major bottleneck event, meaning it squeezed the human population down to a tiny fraction of what it was before. We're talking about the possibility of only a few thousand individuals left on the entire planet. All of humanity, all of our history, all of our accomplishments, all stemming from this tiny group of survivors. If things had gone just a little bit differently, we might not even be here today. So, Lake Toba was rough, no doubt. But here's the thing. Some scientists believe that Toba might not have been the worst bottleneck event in human history. They argue that there might have been an even older, even more catastrophic die-off that happened hundreds of thousands of years earlier. This one, though, is shrouded in mystery. We don't have a smoking gun like Toba, but there are some tantalizing clues hidden in our DNA. When geneticists look at the genetic diversity of humans alive today, they see something interesting, a lack of diversity. This suggests that at some point in our distant past, the human population was reduced to incredibly low numbers, maybe even lower than during the Toba event. Some scientists believe this ancient bottleneck might have been caused by something truly massive, like an asteroid impact or a supervolcanic eruption that dwarfed even Toba. Imagine that, our ancestors, clinging to survival in the face of an apocalypse that would make Toba look like a picnic. It's a chilling thought, but it also speaks to the incredible resilience of life, and of humans in particular. Alright, so we've talked about Lake Toba and this potential even older event, but how close did humans actually come to disappearing forever? It's hard to say for sure, but we were on the ropes. Imagine a boxing match. Humanity is in the ring, bloodied and bruised. The bell rings and we're clinging to the ropes, just trying to make it to the next round. These bottleneck events pushed us to the brink. Our ancestors' grit and ingenuity helped us survive. They dealt with extreme climate change, food shortages, and predators, and yet they persevered. They found ways to adapt and rebuild. It's a story of survival written in our DNA. It wasn't just luck. It was adaptability, ingenuity, and human stubbornness. Chapter 4. Did near-extinction create us? What if these near-extinction events didn't just shape our past, but made us who we are today? These bottlenecks were evolutionary pressure cookers. Only the strongest, smartest, and most adaptable survived. It's like natural selection on overdrive. Imagine a herd of gazelles being chased by a lion. Only the fastest survive, right? For our ancestors, it was supervolcanoes and climate change. These events forced us to evolve and become more resourceful. They might have even played a role in the development of language and cooperation. Near-extinction events were a crucible that forged humanity. They tested us, pushed us to our limits, and forced us to evolve. Chapter 5. This is what caused it. So, we've talked about the effects of these near-extinction events, but what actually caused them? With Toba, we've got a pretty good suspect, that massive supervolcanic eruption. But for that older event, the one that might have been even worse, things get a little murkier. We're talking about a time period hundreds of thousands of years ago, and the evidence is scarce. But that doesn't mean we don't have any clues. One possibility is an asteroid impact. We know that Earth has been hit by asteroids throughout its history, and some of those impacts have been absolutely devastating. An asteroid impact could have triggered massive wildfires, tsunamis, and climate change on a global scale, pushing our ancestors to the brink. Another possibility is a supervolcanic eruption, even bigger than Toba. This kind of eruption could have plunged the Earth into a volcanic winter that lasted for decades, if not centuries, leading to widespread extinctions and pushing our ancestors to the very edge of survival. Chapter 6. The dreaded 0.9 MA event. All right, let's talk about the 0.9 MA event. Now, 0.9 MA might sound like some kind of technical jargon, but it's just shorthand for 0.9 million years ago. And this period, my friends, is when things got really hairy for our ancestors. Around 900,000 years ago, something dramatic happened. We see it in the fossil record, we see it in the genetic data, we see it in the geological record. It's like the Earth itself is trying to tell us something big went down right here. The exact cause of the 0.9 MA event is still debated, but we know it was a time of extreme environmental upheaval. Some scientists believe it was triggered by a sudden shift in Earth's climate, perhaps due to changes in ocean currents or volcanic activity. Others think it might have been caused by a more gradual process, like a long-term cooling trend that reached a tipping point. Whatever the cause, the effects were devastating. Temperatures plummeted, ice sheets expanded, sea levels dropped, and entire ecosystems were thrown into chaos. Chapter 7. Now, it wasn't just humans who felt the heat during these near-extinction events. The planet was going through some serious changes, and not everyone made it out alive. We're talking about mass extinctions, folks, where huge numbers of plant and animal species vanished from the face of the Earth. One of the most well-known extinction events happened around the same time as the 0.9 million years ago event. It's called the Pliocene-Pleistocene extinction event, and it wiped out a ton of large mammals, including saber-toothed cats, mastodons, and giant ground sloths. Imagine a world where these creatures still roamed the Earth. It would be like something out of a prehistoric safari. But sadly, they couldn't adapt to the changing climate and competition from new species, and they eventually died out. Now, it's important to remember that extinction is a natural part of life on Earth. Species come and go, and the planet has experienced 5 major extinction events throughout its history. But here's the thing, we have evidence, and not just from one source, but from multiple lines of evidence that all point to the same conclusion, that our ancestors went through some serious stuff. First, we have the fossil record. By carefully dating and analyzing fossils, paleontologists can track the rise and fall of different species over time. And what they see in the fossil record around these bottleneck events is a dramatic decline in the diversity of plant and animal life, including our own ancestors. Second, we have the genetic evidence. When geneticists look at the DNA of humans alive today, they see a distinct lack of diversity. This suggests that our ancestors went through a period of extreme population reduction, what scientists call a genetic bottleneck. Historian. And finally, we have the geological evidence. Geologists can study ancient layers of rock and ice to reconstruct past climates and environments. Now, even though we've learned a lot about these near-extinction events, there's still so much we don't know. That's the beauty of science, man. It's always evolving. New discoveries are being made all the time, and our understanding of the past is constantly being refined. Researcher. For example, just a few years ago, a team of scientists published a groundbreaking study that challenged the traditional view of the Toba eruption. They argued that while Toba was undoubtedly a massive eruption, its impact on human populations might have been overstated. They pointed to archaeological evidence suggesting that humans in some parts of the world continued to thrive even after the eruption. Now, this doesn't mean that Toba wasn't a big deal. It clearly had a significant impact on the planet. But it does highlight the fact that our understanding of these events is still evolving. What's more, new technologies like ancient DNA analysis are allowing scientists to probe the past in ways that were unimaginable just a few decades ago. You know, it's wild to think that we've been exploring the weird and wonderful world of extinct creatures for 2 years now. Can you believe it? 2 years of diving into the fossil record, 2 years of geeking out over ancient DNA, 2 years of sharing our love of paleontology with all of you. It's been an incredible journey, and we couldn't have done it without you, our amazing viewers. You're the reason we do what we do, and we're so grateful for your support. When we started this channel, we wanted to create a space where people could come to learn about the history of life on Earth. So, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. Well, that's it for this prehistoric trip down memory lane. Thanks for sticking with me through that wild ride. If you dug it, you know what to do. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and be sure to let me know in the comments what other extinct mysteries you want me to explore. And remember, folks, if our ancestors could survive that, you can survive your Monday morning meetings. See you next time.